We're going to follow up our popular video demos of Android Lollipop accessibility with features from the new Android operating system, Nougat, that was just released, and we have now installed here on this Nexus P device. Now, what we're going to show you is what's built into the operating system and not specific to any device. Very few devices have Nougat right now, but when you do have Nougat, you'll be able to do a lot of what we're going to show you. Keep in mind that a lot of these features may have existed in previous versions of Android, and some things are new to Android. Most of it is within the actual operating system, but a few other items are tips and tricks based on some Google apps that come pre-installed in all versions of Android. So no matter what Android device you have, once you've upgraded to Nougat, you should have these features. Devices such as the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 might have additional capabilities like using the stylus for magnification that would not be available on this device. Okay, so right off the bat, we have our typical screen. On many of the devices now, I'm not going to flip it over, but on the back there is a fingerprint scanner I could use to unlock, but not all devices have that. That does provide some mobility access. It might make it easier than typing in a password, but that is one feature that is not on all devices. So the first thing I want to show you, and it's new or at least different in Nougat, is the notification tray. And what I can do is I can pull down notifications, and I can also play with quick settings. So I am going to get into the quick settings, and while I'm doing that, have Todd send me an email to this phone, and so we can see kind of how that might come into my phone and talk about an accessibility feature. So from the top here, I'm going to pull down, and I see I don't have any notifications, but I do have a bunch of icons, I'm not sure what those are, across the top that give me quick access. Oh, and then right there, I get an email from Todd right into my notification tray. And now, for somebody with certain learning disabilities or maybe even dexterity concerns, it's great that right inside that notification I can tap and get into the email. Or, I don't know if you noticed, but I could have also replied within there and done that right again. So actually, I'll ask Todd to resend me that one more time so I can show you the two different ways to interact. And while that's going on, I'm going to go back to my main screen here and pull down this notification tray. So one pull down gets you some of them, two pull downs or the arrow gets me a whole list of different possible quick settings here. And now with Nougat, I can organize what order they in, what are the priority ones, what's up here, to make things easier for me to use. And I can do that right under Edit. I can see, there's some more tiles here that I can add that I might want to use. In fact, one of these is invert colors, so I'm going to drag that up here to make it a priority for my accessible device. It's now my first quick setting here. And so if I close this, now when I first pull this down, the first thing is an invert colors button, and this inverts all the colors very easily on my device. So perhaps it's easier for me to read or see certain things with the color inverted, but I don't want my phone to be in that state all of the time. I can very easily press that button to turn it on and off. It's in that very first notification area. Again, I can kind of play around. What do I want to have up here? A flashlight, some other options that aren't necessarily in terms of accessibility, but we think of this as an accessibility feature because we can control what is more easily at our access, which does not require as many steps to do. So all of that is right here in those quick settings, and having more control is definitely beneficial. I can even have different profiles here if I want work and home profiles or different users of my phone, and I can hit the settings to get even into more of my settings very easily. I don't have to go down and find the settings app. I can get to the settings right there from the top. And when I get in here, I'm going to see I have a lot more accessibility options. And again, at any point, I can just pull that down and hit the reverse colors. And now I see things on my screen. It's white text on a black background to make it easier to see. Oh, so I get another notification. I pull this one down. Now I see it in the inverse, but I can hit reply right away, right inside here, and instantly reply to this email without having to get into the email, read it, hit reply again. So one tap and I can reply right inside that notification. So that's a very useful feature. When you do it for text messages, in fact, you can reply right in a field below there. There's no mobile service on this device, and again, at any point, I can go ahead and change that contrast. So that shows you how the notification comes in, how I can interact right there, maybe save some steps. Now I'm going to come right back in here into settings and get right to the accessibility settings by scrolling down under system where I see accessibility. And this allows me to do a whole bunch of different features, and we will demonstrate those for you one by one. Sometimes getting in and out of a feature might not be smooth, so we might have to cut a little bit, but otherwise this will be a pretty much live demonstration, so you can see how easy it is to just dive right into this and use it. So TalkBack's been around for a long time, but basically this is the screen reader for individuals who are blind that want to use Android. So if you've never used it before, it gives you some information about it, and it also tells you that if you turned it on accidentally, you can turn it off very easily by tapping the switch until the green outline is around it and then double tapping it. So what happens is somebody might accidentally turn on the accessibility, and the way you navigate the phone is very different than if accessibility, the screen reader, was off, and all of a sudden they get stuck in it and don't know how to get out of it. So they kind of give you that feedback there. So I want to go ahead and use TalkBack, and as soon as I turn it on, it gives me
TalkBack on. Accessibility tutorial. TalkBack tutorial. Lesson 2. Scrolling. 2-finger scrolling. Jumping forward and backward. In list. 5 items.
So basically it gives me the lessons. So if I've never used this before, for the first time I turn on TalkBack, it's going to teach me how to do all these lessons. But for basic demo purposes, you just touch what you want to hear.
Lesson 1. Basic navigation. Touch to explore. Swipe to explore. Double tap to activate.
And you can swipe around with your fingers to move on to the next thing. Because again, if you're someone who is blind, completely blind, you don't know where on the screen you're touching. Whereas if you have low vision, you can touch what you want to hear and hear it. So you can do it either way. So by swiping, I can move through the list here.
Learn lesson 1 button. Practice lesson 1 button. Lesson 2. Scrolling. 2-finger scrolling. Jumping forward and backward.
And I can go through that. Or I can hit this circle button at the bottom to get back to the main Android screen.
Home button. Out of list.
But it's telling me
Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press.
So it's telling me you are now out of the list that you were in. It has a green square around it if I do have some vision, or if that I need, I can see what I have activated, and I double tap.
Home screen 1 of 1.
So before you would have just, if you did not have TalkBack on, you would have just pressed that button and you would have gone into it and gone back to the home screen. Whereas it's telling you you need to double tap now that you've selected it if that's what you want to do, because the way we control Android is different with TalkBack on. But now again, I can just touch something on this screen.
Chrome.
And it
Camera. Custom actions. Remove. Move item. Double tap to activate. Double tap and hold to long press.
And now so I can do a long press, which has some custom actions, or I can go ahead and just open what I want to do.
Chrome. Chrome.
And so that opens
Home screen
Chrome.
1 of 1. Chrome. Quickly switch tabs. Tap this button for
So maybe I go
Google
to
News. Google News.
Now I'm on Google News on the web in Chrome, and I can kind of scroll through and see what's there. So
Former Mexican president apologizes for Trump invitation.
But if I find text, I can select it, double tap.
Former Mexican president apologizes for Trump invitation, heading 1. 1 open tabs button. Mexico's former president, Vicente Fox, criticized.
So by using 2 fingers, I can scroll within this. And you may not be able to hear it through the microphone, but there's a kind of a ding noise in the background that is giving me audio feedback to how far I am scrolling. I do want to show you one other thing. You can do that drop-down menu, that's the quick menu, or if you click the apps drawer, it always shows you at the top your 4 most recent apps or most used apps, and you can also search for apps. So this gives you an easy way to get back to what you were doing, and I hit settings and I get back to accessibility, and now I can get switch access. That's another option that I can look into, and this allows you to use a Bluetooth device that kind of shifts something that focuses around the screen, and I just press the switch button to select what I want to do for somebody with a mobility disability. There's also system options that you can use. One is to have captions, kind of a default setting for the entire system. So when you're watching video, if it has captions, what size will the text be? Maybe I want it to be large. Maybe I want it to be yellow on black. So I can set captions on this device that are not already built into a video. So closed captions, not open captions. I can change how they look like on a default setting for the system. I can also learn the magnification gesture. So this is something that I can turn on, and then by tapping the screen 3 times with 1 finger, I can zoom. So I'm going to turn this on, and if I tap 3 times, now I have zoom. And by using 2 fingers, I can move around my now zoomed screen. And by using these 2 fingers apart or together, like you're used to in your browsers, I can go ahead and change how much zoom and still move along. So anywhere on my screen I can have reverse contrast, and with this setting I can have zoom. Another great feature, and this is new, it's Android Nougat for sure, is this ability to change the display size. So you have a default display size, which is kind of indicated by this preview above, but if I have low vision and I want to make everything on the screen much larger, not using any zoom, I can go ahead and have everything kind of rescaled to fit what I need. So I'm going to put it here on the largest setting, and that gives me my display size. And now it remakes everything on my screen a little bit bigger. You won't be able to fit as much in, but if the apps tray, the home screen, it changes the size of things. And all the stuff in the icons, this did not take up anywhere near as much space before. Now it takes up almost the whole screen, but everything's larger and much easier to see. You can even do it the other way around. If you want to fit more things on your screen, you can make it smaller than the default. So I'm going to go back to large, but not terribly large. I can also change the font size. So what I just did before changes the icons, certain things within the apps, the notification screen, but it makes icons and everything different sizes. Sometimes you just want all the text to be on a different scale than default. So again, I can drag this up and make it bigger and save it. And now on these menus where I have fonts, those are magnified. Well, not even magnified, it's just a larger font that I'm using. But at the same time, these icons here are still the size that I selected in the other setting. So it's kind of like your overall is everything larger setting, which includes icons, items on the screen, widgets, things like that, or just anytime there's text within the system that it be magnified. And of course that has nothing to do with if you're going ahead and like using something like the calendar. So that has the actual font and then the overall size of the calendar. You can also go into something like Chrome like we did before, and you know that's still, you still have the ability to have this larger text, but you can still zoom within apps like web browsers. So it doesn't take away any of that existing functionality. It just gives you some more of a system default. You know, a good example is this news.google.com up here in the browser window. Normally that would be much smaller. But you know, the icon over here that tells you how many things you have open, tabs you have open, that's that one magnification setting, and the text in the actual address bar is the text setting. The other thing to keep in mind is that you can tap this other button, and there's a name for this, but I don't remember what it is. This is going to get me everything that I've been working on recently. So if I have a learning disability or certain cognitive disabilities, it might be a lot easier for me to just jump back to something I was doing before, like this accessibility tutorial. Instead of having to go find it again, I can just hit this button here, and it's going to show me everything that's open. This has been around in Android for a while. But what's cool is, hopefully I get this right, if you double tap it, it's going to jump right back to the last thing you did. So I was in the calendar. I want to quickly just jump back to what I had before, the settings. I double click, or actually here, yeah, the Chrome, and it goes to Chrome. So now this is new to Nougat. You can just jump between, you know, two open applications, the last one and the one before that. And then you also have the ability, if the app supports it, to take something and drag it up to use split screen. And this will allow you to have two things open at once. So in terms of accessibility, this could be more confusing than it is helpful. But at the same time, I've seen situations where you might have a certain low vision disability. You might have things magnified, and you need to go to a website maybe to fill out a form. Notice, by the way, the keyboard is not larger when you do the font larger. That comes from that other setting. So you kind of really got to play around and see what you get out of it. But let's say you have you have everything magnified. You need to fill out a form. You're trying to request a service or something, and you need to also look at your calendar on your phone. Well, now there's two ways you can do it. You can do that jumping from calendar to Chrome that I showed you by double tapping, or you could open each and just magnify them a lot in their own window. And this will work if I turned it as well, and fill out my form while accessing my information above. And if I'm filling out a form, the keyboard comes up and everything adjusts so I can still see what I'm trying to fill out. Then I can get right back to where I was before. So I think it's all very interesting. We'll see how much split screen really is helpful for disability, but we did want to show you it. If I go back to my settings, this click after pointer stops moving. This is actually when you have a mouse. So some people, for accessibility reasons, use their Android device, especially if it's a tablet, with maybe a Bluetooth mouse, and that would give you a pointer on the screen, but they might not be able to click the mouse, just move it around, so you can set it to automatically click once you stop moving around the screen. So that's what that feature was, and there was another one related to that as well in terms of the large mouse pointer. Another thing, they call it experimental, but it works fine, high contrast text, so I can turn that on. And now, I don't know if you can really notice, especially through the online video, or if you're listening to the podcast, you obviously can't see this, but the actual text on the screen, such as the time, the notifications, and the text under icons, is a little easier to read. It's a little higher contrast. So that's again under accessibility and high contrast text. I can set it up so power button ends the call. For some people, they need to be able to end the call without going into the actual touchscreen. So they add that feature if you want to be able to do that. Auto rotate screen. Now that is something you can find in your quick settings, or you can have it here in accessibility if you always need to be able to auto rotate your screen very easily. You can also have it speak passwords. So if I want that feature, I can turn that on so I know I hear feedback when I'm typing a password. Otherwise, when I use TalkBack or other ways of reading in my device, it's not going to read the actual password for security purposes. Some people really need that feedback, so it allows you to turn that on. I can also change the mouse pointer to be larger. So again, that same pointer that I move around the screen, then I can have it automatically click, I can make it larger. Mono audio, for some individuals, they only have one ear they can hear out of, and if it's stereo audio, they might lose certain audio. So by turning on mono audio, it all comes through one ear. For the accessibility shortcut, I can turn this on, and this is great. This allows you to very easily, maybe if you're sharing a phone, turn on accessibility features to very easily. So it's a lock screen shortcut. So now I want to talk to you about a couple of lock screen features, just so you're aware. We've shown you a lot of the accessibility and some productivity concepts in here, but another thing, of course, is the voice control. And you can do that without touching it if your screen is unlocked, or you can see the bottom left, there's a voice icon. So if I swipe that up, what time is it?
The time is 11:10 a.m.
So I can ask simple questions, or if I go back, again right here I can say, okay Google, set reminder, edit pod.
Actually, you'll be able to add reminders once you turn on Google Now.
Yes, okay. So Google Now, perfect. I forgot that this is a brand new device that doesn't have Google Now set up on it.
What's the reminder?
Edit podcast at 12:30.
Okay. You can say, change it, otherwise the reminder is set.
So you saw that. I use simple language and I can set a reminder. I can ask a question. I could even say, okay, Google, send an email to Todd Bedecker. Thank you for...
Sorry, who do you want to email?
Todd Bedecker.
I still didn't get that. If you haven't tried it already, try saying just the first or last name.
Todd.
I can't find that name in your contact list either.
Okay, so he's not in my contact even though he just emailed me, because I don't have any contacts apparently. But if he was in my contact list, you get how I could easily email him. And you see how this is kind of intuitive. It walks you through things, so you don't necessarily have to know what you're doing. You can still do basic phone texts or emails, or if you have contacts, of course, or I can even just say, okay, Google, open Play Store. You can do navigation. You can go ahead and do a lot of sort of basic tasks that you think of with your voice, including dictation. So if I was going to write an email, so I will open up, well, actually, why am I cheating? Okay. Okay, Google, open Gmail. So I can open an app. Todd wrote me here. So I can hit reply. And then within the keyboard, I also have the ability to hit this voice button and dictate. Thank you for contacting the Target Center. You have been very helpful. And then I can send that. So I can do it all by voice. If they're in my contacts, I can reply right inside that tray by using my keyboard in the notification tray, or I can open up the actual app and I could dictate by voice. It gives me voice control. And of course I can do anything such as, okay Google, open settings, and quickly get back to my settings. All right, so those are most of the features that are built right in. We've seen notifications, we saw what we can do with the display size, we see what we can do with our voice, we see the voice feedback that we can get, and the magnification that we can use. So, and Google Now, of course, We don't really get into that, but this is a really great tool that lets you to get contextual information. Like it knows I'm near Smithsonian Metro. I didn't tell it that. It knows that. It's giving me Metro information, and it learns more about me. It gives me news, weather, etc., that it thinks I might find useful. And so that is a great tool that I can have at my disposal. And again, for a cognitive disability, it could be very useful. You have the basic home screen setup. You can put apps into folders based on different categories if that makes things better for you. And of course, some of the apps might have widgets that I can add to the screen as well. But again, that's not built-in accessibility. So with that, hopefully you get an understanding of the main accessibility features of Android Nougat. And if you have any more questions, or if you're in the DC area and want to come down and see some of this demonstrated to you in person, you can come to the Target Center and go to our website, which is targetcenter.dm.usda.gov, and set up an appointment, and we'd be happy to help you. So thank you very much.